In the deep silence before scripture, before canon, before religion shaped its boundaries and carved its laws into stone, there existed a world overshadowed by beings whose names time itself has tried to erase. These beings were neither gods nor men, but something in between, radiant, ancient, terrifying. They watched over humanity, guided them, guarded them, and then, in a moment both tragic and cosmic, they fell. This is their story. This is the darkness the Book of Enoch tried to reveal, the story that was buried, outlawed, forbidden. It begins with a whisper, a single whisper in the vault of heaven, where millions of wings once beat in perfect harmony. Among the ranks of the holy host, there were 200 angels stationed not in the heights of glory, but along the borders of creation. They were called the Watchers, Grigori in the ancient tongue, assigned to observe humanity, influence their growth, and ensure that Earth's newborn civilization would not stray into chaos too soon. They were not warriors like Michael, not messengers like Gabriel, not executioners like Uriel. The Watchers were something else. They were curious, and in heaven, curiosity was the spark that could ignite rebellion. From their high vantage above the mountains of the Middle East, they looked upon the humans, fragile, warm, yearning to understand the world around them. And a strange affection grew. The Watchers were not meant to love mankind. They were meant to watch them. But the line between observation and fascination, between fascination and desire, is thin. It was Semyaza, their appointed leader, who first spoke the forbidden words. "Let us descend." The other Watchers trembled. They knew the law. Angels must not cross into mortal flesh. Their power, mingled with humanity's, would produce abominations. God himself had spoken this warning before time was measured. But Semyaza's voice was like a storm. He was one of the first creations, tall as a pillar of heaven, luminous as burning silver. When he spoke, the air trembled. "If we do not descend together," he said, "I will face the punishment alone. But I know this. Once our hearts have stirred, there is no returning to the sky." The Watchers looked upon one another, and in that moment, 200 wills bent toward a single fate. For even angels can be lonely, even angels can hunger. And so, they made the pact. Upon the mountain of Hermon, they swore an eternal oath, an oath so heavy the earth groaned under it. The humans below saw lights descending like meteors, saw figures tall and blazing stepping from the heavens, and they did not flee. They felt awe. They felt possibility. The Watchers appeared beautiful and terrible, their faces shining like suns, their voices deep like rivers. They took wives, choosing from among the daughters of men those who stirred their newfound longing. And from these unions came beings never meant to exist, the Nephilim, giants, warriors, creatures whose bones reshaped the earth. They grew to enormous stature, consuming everything in their path, forests, animals, entire villages. Their hunger was endless because they were born from imbalance, power without boundary, life without harmony. The Book of Enoch calls them the violent offspring of heaven and earth. But the full truth is darker. For the Nephilim did not merely consume food, they consumed spirits, they consumed souls, they consumed the peace of the world. And as the giants ravaged the land, their Watcher fathers taught humanity knowledge never meant for mortal minds. Azazel taught them how to forge blades from iron and adorn themselves with war paint. Penemu taught them how to manipulate symbols and language for power. Sariel taught the reading of stars, so men could predict calamity before it struck. Kokabiel taught enchantments, incantations that pierced the veil of the unseen. Gadriel taught secrets of death, poisons, toxins, the ways a man's spirit could be severed from his flesh. Humanity advanced too quickly. They learned beauty, war, magic, seduction. They learned how to control nature and each other. They learned how to sin. Heaven shook. For God looked upon the earth and saw corruption so deep, the soil itself bled with wickedness. The cries of humanity rose like smoke to the gates of heaven. Cries of people hunted by giants, manipulated by angels, trapped in the shattered remains of paradise. And so, God sent a message, not to the humans, to the Watchers. He sent Uriel, the angel of flame, to a single man, Enoch, the seventh from Adam, chosen not for power, but for purity. Enoch was a shepherd, a quiet man, who sought wisdom under the open sky. Yet in him, heaven saw something rare, obedience without fear. Uriel descended before him in a blaze of fire that scorched the ground to glass. The mountain winds died, the trees bent low, Enoch fell to his face, trembling. But the angel lifted him gently. "Rise," Uriel said, "for this day you shall walk where no mortal has walked." Enoch was carried into the heavens, through rings of fire and clouds of lightning, past the trembling watchers in their prisons of shadow, and into the heart of the divine throne room. There he witnessed the Ancient of Days, a being robed in light so intense it dissolved thought. Enoch fell as though dead, but a voice like 1,000 oceans spoke, "You shall write." Enoch was to become the scribe of heaven, the messenger who would deliver judgment to the watchers and hope to the broken world below. When Enoch descended with Uriel, the watchers trembled. They had known punishment was coming, but they had hoped, foolishly, that God would forget. When Enoch read the judgment aloud, the mountains shook with their cries. "For your deeds," Enoch proclaimed, "you shall see no peace. You shall watch your sons, the giants you fathered, destroyed, and you shall be bound in darkness until the final judgment." Some of the watchers fell to their knees. Some raged. Some begged Enoch to plead with God on their behalf. But Semyaza, their leader, stood silent. He knew the weight of his sin. He knew forgiveness was not his to claim. And so the watchers accepted their fate, a fate darker than death. As the Nephilim tore across the continent, God unleashed a series of calamities: earthquakes, fires, winds that uprooted mountains, and finally, the one judgment still remembered today: the flood. But not a simple flood, not rain alone. The waters burst from the deep, tearing open the belly of the earth. The fountains of the abyss rose in pillars. The sky split, releasing reservoirs of ancient waters. The world drowned, giants screaming as waves the size of mountains crushed their colossal forms. Some say the souls of the Nephilim became the evil spirits that plague the world to this day, neither human nor angel, wandering the earth in hunger and confusion. As for the watchers, they were seized by angels of judgment, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and bound in chains of unbreakable light. They were cast into a prison beneath the desert, a place of eternal shadow called Dudael, sealed beneath jagged rocks and bottomless pits. There they remain, grieving the world they destroyed, listening to the distant echoes of mankind, the very species they once tried to guide. But the story does not end in darkness alone. Enoch, the mortal who walked among the angels, recorded not only the judgment, but the secrets of the cosmos, the paths of the stars, the mechanics of heaven, the prophecy of the coming Messiah, and the final war between light and shadow. His writings were too dangerous, too revealing, too cosmic, and so they were hidden. The Book of Enoch was banned, forbidden, locked away because it unveiled a universe not simple, but massive, populated, terrifying. It showed angels not as symbols, but as beings capable of rebellion. It revealed that the world is shaped not only by flesh and blood, but by ancient forces, by cosmic mistakes, by forbidden love and the consequences that follow. It explained the flood not as myth, but as a desperate cleansing. It described evil not as coincidence, but as the echo of fallen giants. It portrayed the Messiah not as idea, but as a pre-existent being who stood beside God before time. It told too much, and the world was not ready. The watchers remain bound. Humanity continues its ascent, still influenced by the knowledge they left behind. And the Book of Enoch, once buried, now whispers again, daring us to look at the ancient world with open eyes. If you listen closely, even now, you might hear them, in the mountains, in the desert winds, in the shadows between dreams. The watchers are not gone. They are waiting.